I am Jim Collison and live from the Gallup Studios here in Omaha, Nebraska, as well as Gallup Studio B. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, Season 4, recorded on December 6th, 2018. Theme Thursday is the Gallup Webcast series that dives deep into the Clifton Strengths theme, one theme at a time. And today's theme is the wrap party. We're done. We're wrapping it up for Season 4. If you have questions, comments, or contributions during the webcast, we do have a live chat room that's available for it. It's actually rocking right now. I can't believe how many people are in there this early. We want to welcome you guys. But if you have questions, we have a live chat room, bottom left-hand corner. It's right below the main video window if you just look down there. Bottom left-hand corner of the window, it says log in. Choose that. Choose the guest account. Put your name in. Take the numbers out. We'd love to have you log in, especially in today's show. We're going to look for a lot of audience interaction. So we'd love to have you log in and be a part of it. If that's not possible, we'll have some other ways I'll talk about for you to do that a little bit later. If you have any questions after the program, you can send those to us in an email, coaching@gallup.com. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, just gallupstrengthscenter.com for all your Clifton Strengths coaching resources and training needs. You can also catch the video in both streaming and downloadable audio. We call that podcasting. All the cool kids are doing it these days. You might want to get it on your phone, and actually on Maika's Instagram account, we're going to have a way to do it where you just talk to your phone. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. All the ways to do that are available on our coaches blog. Just head out to coaching.gallup.com. And then don't forget, this may be one of those times to do that. Whatever platform you're listening on, if you're not subscribed to it, get subscribed. Find the way to do that, whatever platform that is, on YouTube or an iPhone or an Android. Get subscribed. That way you never miss it. We've been planning 2019, and we have a lot of new stuff coming for you in 2019. You might want to just subscribe. If you want to know and watch us live, the best place to do that is on our Eventbrite page. So go to gallup.eventbrite, B-R-I-T-E on that, gallup.eventbrite.com. Follow us over there, and you'll get an email notification whenever we add something new. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but in Season 5, we are getting ready to load all of those up for 2019. So do it now, do it today, and that way you never miss an episode. Maika Leibbrandt is our host today. She's a workplace consultant here at Gallup. And Maika, welcome back to our final Theme Thursday of the season.
Can you believe it? 4 whole seasons, Jim. We get to wrap today.
4 seasons, Maika. I've been telling people. I just got a chance to talk to an ASC group yesterday that's here training. They're training in our Lewis and Clark room, which is our board room.
Oh,
Great Plains are being redone. We're getting new things.
That's special. That's like the fancy formal living room that I'm never allowed to go in.
I know. Like there was still plastic on the seats, and you had to walk, take your shoes off before you came in. Super swanky room. But I was telling them, I was just kind of reviewing, all these seasons. If you are new to Theme Thursday and you've just caught Season 4, right? We've spent a lot of time focusing on success, but Season 3, we talked about strengths-based leadership. In Season 2, we talked about theme dynamics. In Season 1, we have 24 episodes with Kurt Liesfeld, plus loving all your themes. 3.5 hours. If you listen to the produced versions of this, 3.5 hours of massive content all around your themes. Yeah, I got to think that's pretty great.
I think what I've taken away, and if you're listening today and you're expecting a theme, this is different. So let's do a quick disclaimer. If you're looking for understanding one specific theme, that's not what today's podcast is about. We're going to do a little bit of a review of the season, what we learned, and talk about what's coming up next. But, one of the things that's really struck me in terms of a general success of Theme Thursday is how much, I think, more quickly we are able in our community and in our conversations to go past that first initial define and name and label exercise. And the conversations I see through our social platforms, when I meet people in person, even when I have clients come to me and coach, I can tell that they've already been able to speak this language a little bit. It's like the difference in like a 200 or 300 level language class than an introductory, here's the days of the week, here's how to count to 10. And that's not only really fun, that's also just incredibly, I think, important from a growth and a coaching standpoint. That's how you help get people to where they can do something with this.
Yeah, we wanted to, as we came to Season 4, we talked a lot about, we got a lot of suggestions during Season 3 of what Season 4 could be. And we talked a lot about really this idea of naming, aiming, and claiming. And we felt the community had grown to a spot where we really wanted to focus on those aspects of success. How do we take these things? Because if we just spend all our time saying, here's what adaptability is, or here's what woo is, or, we do spend, and those are important things, right? Understanding, defining, talking about, those are important things. But Maika, we really wanted to spend some time this season really focusing on what makes the difference. Like, where can this be deployed and be successful? We tried to get some feedback from you. Not as successful. I'll be honest, that wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be, and that's okay. What we did do really well is the greater, or the dominant and lesser theme challenges really kind of took off on that. I don't know if we got the feedback we wanted, but we know you were using it. Chris Townsend, who kind of created an entire spreadsheet around this, available in our Gallup Webcast group. By the way, first time listening to this and you want to get more of what's going on in the community, head out to facebook.com/groups/called-to-coach. Almost 12,000 people in there. Chris has a spreadsheet of all the dominant and lesser theme challenges that we've done during the year. Mike,
I owe him a couple more, by the way. Yeah. It will be finished before the end of the year. Oh no, I said it out loud.
Oh, that's good.
I don't have that responsibility, so I didn't remember. I'm not going to remember that I said that, but I hereby empower everybody who hears this to hold me accountable and remind me if I have not gotten Chris those lesser theme challenges. What happened was Jim Ball sent me an email around ideation time frame and said, why don't you have some challenges for the lesser themes as well as the dominant themes? So good example of great feedback getting taken, but it does mean that I need to go back to the beginning of the alphabet, and I will write those.
I think because those are open sourced, right? Because they're available to you, they're a part of the program. You're welcome to use those challenges. I think we've given, for you coaches and even you non-coaches that are doing strengths champion, strengths enthusiast, whatever you want to call yourself in those communities, you've got an opportunity to really take these and deploy them into your organization and allow people to kind of work with them. I think that's probably the most valuable thing we did all season. We go into each of these episodes and talk about what it is and how it relates. And there were some key spots in there where we talked about how do you recognize it and how do you grow it, right? So there's some great insights in that. But Mike, I think just taking those challenges, deploying those into your organization and putting some kind of metric measurement around it. How are people doing? Getting some feedback. I think that may be one of the most valuable things we did all season.
I think so too. I mean, the entire season really was, and this isn't just our idea. It's going back to those, I think, original curiosity that Don Clifton had around what eventually became Clifton Strengths. It wasn't just how do I name all the possible ways your brain can behave. It was more, and this differentiates Clifton Strengths from many tools out there, that curiosity to say, not just how do I tell you who you are, but how do I help you do better? That element of performance. And that is a common thread through our work in workplaces, our work in the customer space, our work in even our curiosity around the world poll. I think that there's this common thread around the mission and purpose of Gallup in general to say, how do we do better? How do we perform better? And that at its core is what gets me going. I think I could probably make a grander statement, but just the truth of it is that's my value around it. I think back to times when I've been consulting with organizations or sitting there in tough economies where great managers have stood up and said, my people matter, my engagement matters, the environment that I create matters because it's how we're going to survive. It's how we're going to thrive. And the work that our coaches have done of taking what we've created here and amplifying it, making it their own, changing it so that it makes sense and it's more relevant. I can't say it this way, but that's God's work, right? That's real important stuff. That's how you move the needle on how it feels to be in partnership, how it feels to be in families, how it feels to be in workspaces. And to me, that's what differentiates season 4 from the really good work that we did on the first 3 seasons, but those first 3 were a lot more about what's the right and wrong definition so that we're making sure that this language we call common truly is, where I think we got to take off in season 4 and say, essentially when I was writing show notes, like everything that I asked myself was, okay, if at the end of a coaching call, when a client says, this is all great, Maika, but what does this tell you? That's sort of the question that I was answering with each of those themes, and that idea of what do I do with this? How do I use it? How do I invest in it? I don't know that I've ever read anything about balconies and basements or raw and mature or help and hinder from Don Clifton, but I have read a whole lot about how do we succeed? What do we do? What do we do we do that increases performance? So Jim, I think you've been a great partner even outside of this space, bringing in Mike McDonald this year and talking about that Q12 for Coaches series. And it just seems like this has been a really great time for us to say, it's not enough to name it. Naming and investing are two different things.
The end of the year, we spent some time talking about metrics. And last year's goal, as we started looking at the total webcast channel that we have, so that includes Theme Thursday, Call to Coach. We include the Gallup podcast series in there. That's more politically driven, but it's a podcast about some of the numbers we draw. We were doing about 24,000 downloads a month last November. I was just looking at my goal sheet. We are now doing 50,000. We doubled the numbers. So congratulations to you as well.
That, if you don't know, is Jim's ultimate goal. Like if you ask him what he's going to do, the answer is always double it.
Yeah, double everything. I always put on the bottom of any of my goal sheets in that we're trying to do. Maika, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think we could do it. And in the community hit it hard. Not just 50, but it was like 56 and some change. And so I was super proud of the work that we have done here. To me, I don't just say that to say a number. One, I say that because you who are listening right now is important to us, right? Mm-hmm. Those numbers are important. You're just not a number, but you are part of a collective as we think about what we do in the community. But two, it gives us some idea of impact. What are we doing? We too are kind of worried about what's the aiming part of this as we aim this out into the community. Is it making a difference? And those numbers tell me yes. Like it tells me that we're getting more downloads, we're getting more listens, we're getting more impact. That success factor is what's really important. And so as I look at, if you were to ask me how we were successful, we're on track for 500,000 downloads this year. We could easily make that. By the way, the goal next year is 1 million. Like I don't think we can. I think we can do 100,000 downloads in a month. It'll help when you share, when you give these to your clients and say, hey, I've got season 4 for you. Let me cue this up or show you how to listen to it or do whatever needs to be done to help them with it. We've made this content for you to share. So thanks for doing that. That is a little bit of our success as we think about that. We want to
before you go any further, what do you think would change if we hit 100,000 downloads in a month?
Ooh, that's a really good, as far as when you say what would change.
What would that matter? Would that change our community? Would it change our conversation? Would it change our content or our approach to it? What would be the
Well, we would get more feedback because as the numbers have grown, I get probably weekly or every couple days feedback now. People send me emails, Jim_Collison@Gallup.com. They comment on our YouTube videos. They comment on the blog posts that we do. But that starts to generate, like, every one of those touches increases the ability to have exponential growth in other areas.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what it changes. It changes impact. It changes reach. It changes the conversation. If more and more people think about this, if your community around you, if more of them were listening to the common language or learning and understanding strengths, then when you get into those conversations about it, you don't have to do all this explaining, right?
Right.
They're already there with the language.
So it accelerates the positive repercussions of focusing on strength, right? When we look at, I taught a Clifton Strengths Discovery webinar this week, and we love our data slides that talk about ROI, but it really hit me, the one that says that, people who focus on their strengths every day are 6 times as likely to be engaged in work. They're 3 times as likely to have a positive quality of life. And so I think about, 100,000 downloads a month sounds awesome to those of us who like to rate, rank, and sort things, but think about the residual effect of it, meaning that you have a better chance of walking into a room where somebody else speaks this language.
Yeah, I also think going from 25 to 50 is harder actually than going from 50 to 100 because of that exponential effect. And we continue to gather more and more who will use that. And we hope, I use those numbers to know, are we doing the right thing? Are we saying the right things? Are we providing the content that you want to hear? And when those numbers do that, then it means, yes, we're hitting the right we're hitting the right marks on those. So we have high hopes for 2019. Like I said, we have a lot planned for you. We'll talk more about that here in a little bit. One of the things we want to say, what kind of successes have you seen through what you have done? And maybe some of the work through the webcast that we are doing here. You can put those a couple different ways you can do that. If you're listening live, throw that in the chat room. We'll read those as we go along. If you are an Instagram person, you can follow Maika at Strengths Talk on Instagram. You can post those at any time. Just go out there. As we're finishing up the season, the year for most people, you're making new goals. We want to hear from you. Tell us what successes you've had with strengths in 2019. You can tweet them to me if you want on Twitter, Jim at Gallup, all one word, Jim at Gallup. That's my Twitter handle for what we do. We don't talk about that very much here, but I'm out there and available there. If you're watching,
he doesn't want you to know, but he is available.
I am available on Twitter. We just don't spend a lot of time on Twitter for some reason. This community just doesn't gravitate towards it, but you can do that if you want to. Some of you are not Facebook fans, but if you want to do it on Facebook, our group, facebook.com/group/call-to-coach. And then if you're on the YouTube video and you just want to post those in the comments, do that down below. I approve all the comments, by the way. And so you can post those. I do not want that community. YouTube is a terrible place for comments, but you can post them there and we will keep that very, very appropriate. So Maika and I, as we're talking about our successes a little bit, start putting those comments in the chat room. We'll read them as well. Maika, I think a success I want to talk about with you is a combined success. And then you and I are going to talk about some individual ones. It's been the post show. The post show is something I've done in all my webcasts outside podcasts that I've done outside of Gallup. And we've never really done that here. And you and I kind of did this post show this year. And I have to admit, I got tons of requests later. Like, how do I get the post show? How do I get there? How do I listen to it? I think the power of live has been incredible for us to have the ability to talk directly to people through the post show. And for whatever reason, people say we change a little bit in the post show, and we do. We lighten up. It's not so structured. The chat changes in the post show as well, right? And so it's not just us. For some reason, when we say we're not going to publish this, which by the way we really do, but because it's available on the live channel, right? We just
don't preserve it on purpose.
Well, it's always out there. It's on the live channel. There. It's out there. It's still out there.
We in the same way that
right.
Your cat videos are out there.
Still, but it's the post show. I feel like I have grown with the input and the dialogue. Maika, you coached me a couple times in the post show. We just had some moments. I don't know. That's been my thought.
I love the post show because I feel so much more connected to our community through that post show. Because for me, it's when I'm doing our pre-show, our bulk of our show, the part that we copy edit and we turn into a podcast. I don't watch the chat group because I'm watching my notes and trying to fake that I have it all memorized, right? But for me, there's something more than just being able to pay more attention to the chat. There's something about that, I don't know, something magical that happens in that post show where I just feel like I'm so much more present with our community. But I also, it's the most energizing part of my week to get to talk to you and to get to have that connection. It's 30 more minutes of gym. So that's always good.
Yikes. Said by nobody ever. Jamie in the chat room, she says, for me, it's been the ability to have good discussions with my new boss about where I'm strong, where he's strong, and what it means for us to be working together in a new relationship.
Wow.
I think sometimes, Maika, we get so hung up in these name it that we forget, this is actually a relationship tool. So, I have the ability to have this common framework to talk to someone and be able to have this common language of figuring that out. I think that's super powerful. And I think sometimes we forget about it,
Yeah. Well, and Jim, what you've been really good at doing in the way that you would add color and question some of my notes or statements has always been reminding us that we are so much more than one theme, that our dynamics are going to make a difference, that where we place our values is going to make a difference, that you cannot assume that you have to engage with the person that you're building a relationship with, whether that's a client or a partner or a team member. I think you've been really good, a strong and consistent reminder of that. And so that keeps us safe. That keeps us in a space where we can say, here's what you already know about the people that you're working with. Go out there and accelerate that speed of connection through strengths.
Emily also says, managed to get our whole department to get their top 5 and all read the book. Lots have also watched your YouTube videos to help understand the individual themes. I've held 4 workshops. I've had an action plan on how to implement StrengthsFinder in our department's work for 2019. It's changed so much in terms of motivation and people enjoying what they do at work. Exciting stuff. Emily, congratulations on that. That's pretty cool. Maika, when we think about, Emily, I'd be interested to know, as we think about 2019, and maybe you can drop this in the chat as we do this, some of your actual goals for this, because I think it's really easy to have everybody take their top 5 and get talking about it. But then, Maika, as you think about departments or groups, actually some things that they could be doing to keep this going, right? Give us some, as we're working with companies and individuals, what often do you gravitate towards?
I think, I get the question a lot from team leaders about how do I do strengths with my team, right? And there is this very positive, I think, good-natured desire to say, I've got this, it was powerful for me, I want to make it equally powerful for others. What do I do? And sometimes there's that black hole. You can kind of stare blankly back at them and say, well, they should take the assessment or they should read the book. I think what's even more powerful is if you also define a reason why, or you define a metric, or perhaps define a performance goal. It could even be something as simple as taking a stand and getting your ego into your definition of how do you want it to feel to work as a part of this team. Make that goal be something completely separate from strengths or Clifton Strengths or this tool, and then use strengths as the lever to get there. There's a great blog at coaching.gallup.com that Tim Simon wrote, where he talks about Don Clifton saying, if you can measure it, you can manage it. And Don's advice was always, everything can be either rate, rank, or sorted. And so that's why I think you've got to have something that you can count. You've got to have something you can say, this is why we're doing it. And I've worked with teams who have said the reason that we're using strengths is we need to have better physical well-being. We're unhealthy, we're not in a good space. And if we can get in a space where we are making a plan for our health and our physical well-being based on what we do really naturally, then we hope we can affect some of our health metrics. I've been in other spaces where people say we've got, customer issues that we need to improve, or, hey, we're already on top of our game and we want to stay there. And we want to make sure that this is an engaging environment. And so we're measuring that, or we're, working with partners to help us define the climate here. And strengths is a part of that. So I think that there's a lot more sustainability in what it is that you want to change if strengths is a lever that you pull instead of a goal in and of itself. So I do encourage you to think about that with your clients and to talk about it with us. How are you defining the target with strengths? And then I think you can also you can have some fun and say our target is also to have so many strengths coaches, or so many people who have feedback, or so many people who know their top 5 and can name them. And those are fantastic metrics that are more geared toward measuring Clifton Strengths, but under that umbrella of let's have a bigger reason, something that says, there's something we truly want to accomplish with this. And it's more than just learning this language.
Jamie says strengths is the path to team engagement. It impacts most, if not all, of the Q12. And, Mike and I, you mentioned this early, Mike McDonald and I spent the second half of the year going through 14 episodes for Q12 for coaches. And it's really the Q12 is that insight. If you're in an organization that's taking it, or you have the opportunity to have an organization take it, it really is that ability to have some really concrete areas to say, hey, where can we point our strengths to shore some of these areas up to you do want a well-rounded Q12 score when we think about that in strengths. Mary says, thank you for the insights and inspiration. I think my coaching focused more specifically on helping clients to be clear about how they're leaning into their top 5 and beyond to be more skillful at the job. It's amazing to hear the outcomes. Maika, you and I have had some personal outcomes this year. We wanted to share a little of these. Like, it's, we sit here and we have to do this week in and have to. We get to do this.
It is torture. Can you tell?
I know. My boss just like, when are you going to do more? Now that's said by no one ever. But we've had some personal insights this year. In the pre-show, you and I were talking a little bit. Let's start with you. Strategic has been an interesting. You've had some learning around that. Talk a little bit about it.
Well, it's always tricky. There's 34 themes. I love them all, but I don't have an equal experience with them all, right? Some of them I own, they're mine. And so it was surprising to me this season how much I learned about my own theme, specifically strategic. And it probably is top of mind because we didn't do it that long ago. I have high adaptability. And so I sort of pay attention to the present. But I had this real eye-opening understanding when we did that strategic episode. And I don't remember if it was during the episode or afterward. And what hit me was I've always, I think, struggled to identify this theme in myself. It's my number one. And true to form, the reason I struggle with it is the same reason I typically tell people they also might struggle with identifying their own themes, is it's real hard for me to realize that pattern of thinking is unique to me. That everybody doesn't just see the world that way. And strategic is about options thinking. It's about contingency. For me, it plays along a lot with my communication. And so it's almost like I'm constantly storyboarding. I also have high ideation. So I'm also thinking about what's the common thread, right? Or what's that pattern? So that combination of communication, ideation, strategic for me is tell a great story, notice the patterns, and put them into a narrative. So there's a beginning and middle and end. And it's why I love working with our blog writers, and why we also say submit messy drafts, because I want to help you make them better, and I can do it really fast. I'll spend some time talking to a writer about an idea that they have, and in no time, it seems like it just Rain Man's in front of me of here's where you need to start, here's the points you need to make, here's the climax, here's how you're going to wrap up. I can send that back in sort of the bones and have them fill in the meat. I know in my head that that's unique, but it didn't hit me until in the post show when Jim, you were talking about my strategic from your viewpoint of what having me as a partner with that theme does for you. And that was super eye-opening because I realized that it has not just a benefit for me and how I outline my day and my week and my ideas, but that I am constantly, without even realizing it, picking up little things that you say and stringing them together on this beautiful necklace plan and, hanging it back around your neck. And it also, I think, solidified that belief that your strengths don't develop in a vacuum, that they develop best in relationship to other people. So that was a huge eye-opening moment for me. Jim, you mentioned that there was a theme also that really you changed your perspective on in this season. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've always struggled with Maximizer, and it's always been one of those I have seen it as a dark theme. I've mentioned that almost in every show we've done of being one that spends a lot of time critiquing myself and always rethinking things. I've said I replay every conversation I've ever had after I've had it. By the way, I replay every webcast in my head after we've done it to say, what did I say right? What did I do wrong? It's mostly what I did wrong. I mean, I focus on that. And it's been really, really dark, just to be 100% honest. This year, in working through this and seeing, as we were going through the Maximizer episode, I had this realization that really in its most productive form for me, it means not just doing better, but doing more. And so, because I'm wired to do better. I'm always thinking about better, faster, easier ways to do things. But I came up with this phrase, right? Anything worth doing is worth overdoing. And, some people say, like, everybody laughs at that when I say that. But, and then there's kind of acquisitive. And if I've been saying that to my friends around Gallup here, as I've been joking about it, they go, that is you. Like
double everything.
Yeah. When you go into something, you're red hot or ice cold. And so for me, when I know when something is caught on for me and I really value it, I need to make sure I clear things out of the way because I'm going to go all in. So I tell people now, tell my boss, tell people around me, like, I am your guy. When you want somebody all in, I'm your all in guy. And I think that's again, oftentimes when we come to Maximizer, we think about sorting for quality, and that is still the definition. It's still there. But when you pair it with woo and communication and arranger and activator, it takes on that, for me anyways, it takes on this form of someone who goes all in, right? And so understanding that, Maika, it's almost been a relief for me, because I never saw the quality side of things. I was like, I know they're saying that, but I create errors, and I have mistakes, and I'm not a good proofreader. I mean, I always felt guilty about that, but realizing that it really plays out when I'm most successful. When I turned 40, I started running, and I didn't just run, I ran far. And I ran with
very far,
and I ran marathons, and I did. That's an indication of when we started a webcast series. We didn't just do one; we did 3, and then we did 5, and then everything looked like a webcast. And then, right? It's that ability to kind of just really get crazy with it and go for it. And so that changed all of a sudden from me thinking my maximizer was a weakness. I lived in that space more than I didn't, to thinking, no, wait a minute. I've phrased it wrong in my own head. Like, it's not that for me. I am doing it. It is real, and I'm having great success with it.
And what was it that unlocked that for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I'd have to go back and listen to that episode again to see exactly. Well, let me just say it in this way. It's been the focus of success on the season. It's been thinking about, okay, how is it successful? Right. And so as we began to talk through some things, and I think even on that episode, you began to unlock some pieces, or maybe even I talked myself into it in some regard, but realizing that this gift of overdoing it, which could be seen as a negative, is actually some of the best successes I had. One of them being this program came through that maximizer, right? It came through not just doing, but overdoing.
And it's really powerful for you to say you had a less than positive understanding of your own theme, because it's so important for us to realize that people who we're working with are not working in this space of assume positive intent every day. They don't have those 5 guiding principles of themes are neutral tattooed to their somewhere like I do. It's a joke, but I'm thinking about it. But I think to hear you say, here's some truth. I thought that this was kind of dark for me, and that you can still discover something. And you've listened to and participated in 130 hours of this, and still you had that experience where there was room for growth. And I think a lot of that comes from that assertion that our areas of strength develop infinitely. And sometimes that means exploring pieces that might feel darker and being comfortable and okay with that.
Ken says in the chat room, he says, Jim, enjoy every time you explain Maximizer for you. It's my number one, so I can feel every description you share.
Beautiful.
He had said earlier, too, the impact of sharing the webcast's info with the staff at the Division of State Government I serve on has been impressive and measurable. Our voluntary mailing list for Clifton Strengths info jumped from 300 to 800. See, that's a maximizer in my world.
Whoa.
That's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not doing it. That's overdoing it.
And that comment back to you is how to recognize a maximizer, right?
Yeah, no, right on.
Something to it. As you were talking, Jim, I did have a thought, an idea. I happened to have this on my desk. I did not plan this. The team activities guide came out during this season. And activity number 32 might be helpful for folks who want to accomplish what you just described. It's called Strength Slogans at Work. An example is harmony, let's do what works best, individualization, I know who you are. They give an example here of maximizer. It says, I want to build something great. I think Jim's example would be maximizer, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. But it's this idea that you should encourage your team members to design their own slogan for their themes. And so you're doing this by considering, what's the power and edge. Again, that's what makes it valuable and unique. Asking people maybe, what's your superpower? What does this look like when it's really great? Just an idea here, in that it comes under that idea around, build a team, how powerful it can be when you share those slogans. And I think you're answering the question of, here's what I know to be true about myself. Here's what you should expect from me. But a really great way to just think about it that way.
Well, that slogan, and I've said that over and over and over, whatever is worth doing is worth overdoing, has really become a call to action for me with this Woo Maximizer, which we don't put together very often. but it's this ability to take and lead and be over the top in moving things forward, to really set audacious goals, to really set, like, not only can we do it, but we can crush it, and then we can crush it again type deal with people. Like, I think we can do more than we think we can do. And I think we can do it better than we think we can do. And that takes somebody saying that, right? It often does take. When we talked about aha moments, Debbie in the chat room said best aha was for strategic for one of my clients, was that not everyone can track how they got from A to B. And it had a massive impact on reducing her anger towards everyone around her. She needed to vocalize the pathway, and that changed everything.
Ooh, remember in strategic, we talked about not just being able to see around the corner, but shining a light around the corner for other people.
Yeah.
So there's an example of, hey, something we talked about happened.
Jamie in chat, she says, I have it pinned to my desk. Maximizer is number one for me. And that saying is so me. The saying,
Love it.
It's worth
Love
over.
it.
Yeah, Mike, I do think that's a good, just as you're talking about that, I think we should all have our own little personal mission statement.
Let's do activity number 32. So as an assignment from today, your ticket to leave the wrap party, if you ever want to be freed from here, is you have to post somewhere, either here or on Instagram or on Facebook, or send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, of what your strength slogan is. And you can think about it. Social media is there 24/7. But I just said you can't leave the party until you do it. So I guess you can't think about it too long.
We'd like some, actually, I'd like some of those in the chat before we go. So, Chris,
it is learn, think, help. And also post the relevant themes that go along with it, just so we can see that in action.
Get some idea. Think, yeah, I think it's good. Write that on a sticky, Post-it note. Whatever in your journal. How's your journal doing, by the way? Your planner?
It's changed my entire life.
Really?
When I first said this and people saw me with no executing themes, I do have belief number 10, which is like the Diet Coke of executing themes. It's a great theme. It just doesn't feel super executing in my world. I think people laughed at me thinking, oh, she's not going to do that. But it saves me a lot of anxiety of thinking I'm forgetting things when I just set aside a time to say, I'm going to storyboard my week. And so I go weekly, but then it's also just a space that I make a daily list, and I don't have achievers. I don't really care about checking it off, but similar to like bullet journaling, I'll move something from one day to the next if it doesn't get done. How's it going? It's going so well that it's right here and I can show it to you. And this is still my like cheap version of my planner. I don't get to jump into the new one until January, but it's made a big difference. I think somebody in our group, Andrew Sloan, maybe asked, what's one thing you're going to do in 2019 to make yourself better, more productive or something? And I had to refrain from answering, use my journal, because I feel like I've kind of overplayed that note. But it's true. It's leaning into that ideation, the strategic of needing to have an arc for how things are going to happen. But more importantly, it's just taking a little bit of energy that I was using in my brain and putting it somewhere else so I don't have to remember it all.
No, it's super cool to get that feedback. Jim Ball says, one of my favorite aha moments was when Jim described how understanding someone else's themes differentiates between conflict and growth.
Ooh,
and so that was
that's good.
Yeah, we talk. Well, we always talk about strengths as a way to really do conflict management, conflict resolution. It's a great way to get it done. Tracy says, where there's a will, there's a way. So maximizer and belief.
Very cool.
Chris says we'd asked him to throw that in, his statement. He said learner, analytical, input, and restorative.
Nice. Learn, think, help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're coming in fast
I like
now.
Luz's responsibility achiever maximizer. Commit to it, do it best.
Nice. Yeah. See, I love those. I love those little slogans that you can have. For me,
Debbie. I knew Debbie would have a good one. Connect with energy and purpose. Semicolon. Cultivate the world. Woo, communication, positivity, strategic developer. Love it.
Super good. You guys are coming up. Do Megan, and then we'll move on.
Okay. Thanks, Megan. Let my curiosity drive me, instinct guide me, and experience ground me. Oh my gosh. It sounds like something I'd paint on a wall.
Totally.
Empathy, learner, connectedness, individualization, and achiever. Love, love, love it.
Hey, somebody do me a favor. Let's move these to Facebook, because I think we have a lot more to share. So jump over into Facebook and let's in the Webcast group, somebody start a thread. And what is your slogan? Maybe your slogan for 2019. How are you going to do it? How are you going to focus on it? Maika, we have a season 5 to deal with.
Can you believe it?
Uh,
It's a different format.
It's going to be totally different. Lots of feedback. By the way, thank you to everyone who sent us in feedback. We listen to all of it. We can't act on all of it. But Maika, as we think about where we're headed in 2019, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do. And you want me to do it, or you want to do it?
Drum roll?
Yeah.
And then I'll do it. Dun, 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 dun. So we get a lot of questions all the time about I love this for me, but can I have my kids take it? Or how young can a human take Clifton Strengths? Well, the answer is we actually have a separate instrument for children. It's designed for ages, I think, 9 to 14, Clifton Youth Strengths Explorer. I will also say, and I won't say this next season out loud, but as long as it doesn't become a reading test, you can push that 9 years pretty young, as long as they don't feel like they're being coached in how to answer the right answers, or it doesn't feel like a reading test. But it is designed for kids. And so I think right away we're going to get these questions of like, how do all these themes map to the Clifton Strengths themes? I want to go back to the growth that we've made around not just name it. The point is not to say these are where the strengths are born from and then they funnel into 34 themes. But there are 10 themes in Clifton Strengths Explorer, and we're going to go into all 10 of them. So there will be 12 episodes of season 5, and we'll start right away at the start of 2019. We'll end early with a chance to have a little bit more runway and other things to play with, perhaps after we get through all 10 of those.
And we will probably do 2 seasons of Theme Thursday next year. They'll both be abbreviated, so shortened up a little bit. One will be pre-summit. And by the way, the summit is early this year, so June 3rd, 4th, and 5th here in Omaha. And then we will probably do a second season based on something else. We have a new book coming out. We're still working on some of the content that needs to be done there. But definitely Strengths Explorer will be our focus for season 5. You're going to want to be a part of it. We get these questions a lot around this instrument. There are no current resources verbally, podcast or video around these. And so Maika felt like it was really important. We'll also be highlighting the book Strengths-Based Parenting. In that, it really, in that book is a Strengths Explorer and a Clifton Strengths code that is available. And so we will say, if you haven't picked up that book yet, you might want to go ahead and head out there and pick up that book. It's been out for a year or 2 now at this point, a very valuable resource.
If talked about going beyond the book earlier, Jim, if that's something that you want to go beyond, we also are launching or have launched an entire course around strengths-based parenting. So in your workplace, I mean, what a fantastic way to reach out and say, we want to be a strengths-based workplace with our adult employees. A lot of workspaces are saying, we are going to invest in this course and have Gallup come out and talk about strengths-based parenting and really walk you through it. It's a different type of a course where it's more about, here's how to facilitate these conversations. But spoiler alert, I think strengths-based parenting, and I'm so excited, Jim, that I'll get to do this with you, because we are certainly at two different ends of the spectrum on parenting in a lot of ways, in that I'm a mom and you're a dad of different children.
Yes.
But I mean, my kids are little. My daughter's first birthday is today. And your kids are all out of the house now. So we get to have a fun take on that. But the spoiler alert I was going to get to is that, strengths-based parenting isn't just about knowing your kids' strengths. It's about knowing how your strengths show up in your parenting. So I haven't decided how we're going to structure season 5, but maybe we'll do a little bit of a challenge around that as well.
Yeah, we're doing some work to get that all pulled together and done. So kickoff on that will be January 17th. And like I said in the earlier part of the webcast, Gallup.eventbrite.com. Rosie will actually be posting those out here later today, I think. And so they'll be available to you to get signed up for those. Share that information. This will be one of those, Maika, this may be a series that transcends the workplace a little bit, because it's going to get home. And so
I'm not going to try and make it fit work all the time, right?
We're gonna talk a lot about home. I mean, this is kind of what the series is for. And so although let's just say this, like, as home is distracting, that can be brought to work. And so if you're, I think there's some opportunities when I became a better parent by focusing on my kids' strengths and what they were good at, and we realigned our relationships at home, that changed the way I managed people and the way I did things at work. I'm not going to lie. As my family went, so did my work. And so it's not like, this is only family and this pertains. There is a direct tie and a direct correlation as we think about what's going on at home. How is that affecting? You want to talk about engagement at work? If home is not going well, work could be a real distraction and trouble. Right. So don't think these two are divorced from each other, that these two are separate. That's absolutely one has to do with the other.
I also don't think that you have to be a parent in order to get a benefit from children or from Strengths Explorer, right? We will talk about strengths-based parenting. It's a phenomenal book. It's a phenomenal idea. But this is not exclusive to parents. We all, I always think it's funny. I'm going to say something perhaps controversial. All those ideas, and if you are a parent of young children, you've probably seen this somewhere and applauded somebody for it. But anytime you fly with kids on an airplane, there's this new idea, I blame Pinterest, that you should bring a bag of goodies for the people who sit around you. And it includes like earplugs and candy and, I don't know, maybe a drink voucher. And it kind of rubs me the wrong way because we are in this together, humans, right? Like, I don't need to thank another person to be in this world space with my kids. Maybe I do need to thank them. I don't need to apologize for it. So this is a really great opportunity to say, yep, sometimes my kids on an airplane might not be exactly who you want to sit next to. And they're entire human beings who have potential and power and something about them that we can define. And the earlier we can define it, the better adults they're going to be for everybody else around them. So I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be very different, but I'm really looking forward to it.
In the book, Strengths-Based Parenting, there's some sections on strength spotting. By the way, that isn't just a parental exercise. Anyone who works with students that are between the ages of 0 and life, we strength spot each other all the time. It's it can be a handy exercise, and so if Mikey said not just for parents, you don't have to necessarily have children. Aunts and uncles would be included in that if you're in that kind of role. If you volunteer in organizations and you work with these younger students and you're trying to figure out how can we really maximize the talent of these students because they have great amounts of talent as well. I'm going to go out on a limb as saying their talents may actually be stronger as children because they haven't been beaten out of them yet, right? They haven't gone through all the adult problems that they have where they're trying to hide them or they don't want to use them because of fear or whatever. Children, those talents are very, very raw and very exposed. And we have the amazing ability. I spent 10 years in a job that wasn't using my strengths at all. And I got behind career-wise. It took a lot of work for me to make that up. Don't let that happen to others. Get them focused early. And so this may be the most important series we've done yet. Just to throw that out there. This may be the most important we've done yet. So join us in 2019. If you're listening to this sometime in 2019, come out and join us, gallup.eventbrite.com and get signed up for it. Head out to the coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com is available for you out there. Maika, anything else you want to throw in before we wrap this?
Thank you. That's kind of what I want to throw in. You drove, I think, a lot of all of this, but specifically season 4. I think you drove me to be myself a little bit more, to have a little bit more of an opinion, to lean into what I knew to be true instead of just trying to repeat kind of verbatim what all these definitions were. And getting to hang out with you, you've taught me that even for somebody with high woo, low relator, that having real, important, authentic, long relationships with a few people truly matters. So this has been a ton of fun. I kind of can't believe we get paid for this. And I just, thanks for showing up with me every week.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a privilege as we've gotten to know each other. I said this during strategic, but I have this raw energy and you're able to help me focus that and get it in places where it really matters. And no, Jim, let's not do that, but let's do this. And that's really, really helpful to me. That makes me, I've said I'm an amplifier of people's talent, right? It's my job to make people big deals. But at the same time, you have done that for me. So thanks for your work and your partnership in this. I look forward to cranking this over. My Marine son comes home for Christmas. We're going to celebrate that. And then January 1, we get back to work. I'm making some great webcasts. We have a bunch available for you coming up in 2019. We're pretty excited about what that year is going to hold, and some really, really cool stuff coming ahead. We'll remind everyone to take full advantages of all the resources we have available to get the Gallup Strength Center, if I could say it. GallupStrengthsCenter.com. Send us your questions or comments if you'd like to be a guest blogger. That's something we'll still continue to do. You get an idea, 400 to 600 words. It could be even a little longer if you want. Send that to us in an email. We would like it to be original, by the way. So original content. Send it to us in an email, coaching@gallup.com. You can also catch the recorded audio and video of this program as well as all the past ones. Get plugged in. If you're not getting these on a regular basis, you're missing out. Figure out how to do it in your ecosystem. If you can't, just ping me. I'll teach you how to do it. It's super simple, super easy. Head out to coaching.gallup.com if you're interested in becoming a Gallup certified strengths coach or want to see. Maika mentioned the course that we have kind of coming up. We have a bunch of new courses coming up for next year. If you want some training, they're all available on our courses website. Go to courses.gallup.com. We'd love to have you join us here either on campus or any of our other satellite campuses around the world. Love to have you as a part of them. Don't forget, join our Facebook group if you haven't done it yet, facebook.com/groups/call-to-coach. We'll get you there. About 12,000 of you out there now, and we have some great conversations around that as well. We are looking forward to 2019, all the series that are coming up. I'm especially excited about Theme Thursday. You don't want to miss it. Come out on Thursdays and join us live. We'll thank those who joined us in the chat room. Great input. We'll do a little bit of post show at the end here. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.